Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, especially for our friends from Group 7. Moreover, to our doctor. So we are today with presenting our group project from a Group 7 on the course of Gqs0046 with the title Designing an Innovation Hub for Rural Entrepreneurs, a community-focused project proposing a structure, funding model, and SDI linkage for an innovation center in a rural area. Moving forward, we have five members in Group 7. The first one is Luthfi Arifin. The second one is Muhammad Akmal bin Khairun Arifin. The third one is Amirul Muadz bin Amir Fadhli. The fourth one is Natasha Amara uh, Zakiyah. And the fifth one is Nabil Harith. The next ones, we have six different structures in our presentation for today. The first one, so we're talking about introductions, background, methodology, analysis, policy or system designs. And the last ones, we will conclusions all of the theory or also the topic that we're talking today. Moving forward to the first slide, we will talking about introductions. So in the introductions, in recent years, rural areas have increasingly been recognized as untapped reservoirs of innovations, creativity, and also entrepreneurial potential. Despite their often limited access to resources, infrastructure, and also institutional support, rural communities are home to individuals with unique ideas and solutions tailored to a local challenge. However, due to structural constraints and lack of exposure to science, technology, and also innovations, or we can say SDI networks, the majority of these innovations remain informal, underdeveloped, and disconnected from broader economic ecosystems. Recognizing this gap, this project proposes the designs of an innovation hub dedicated to empowering rural entrepreneurs by providing access to infrastructure, technical expertise, funding, and also collaborations opportunities. The concept of an innovation hub is not new. In urban contexts such as centers have been catalyzed for startup, ecosystem, research, commercializations, and knowledge sharing. However, the replications in rural settings remains limited and also often poorly adapted to the unique social, cultural, and economic realities of these communities. Rural entrepreneurs face distinct challenges such as limited digital connectivity, lack of formal education, and reduced access to financial service that require tailored solutions rather than one-size-fits-all models. This project aims to bridge this divide by designing a community-focused innovation hub that respects the local context while enabling integrations with regional and national innovation systems. The main objective of this project is to propose a sustainable and scalable model for rural innovation center that serves as basically an organizational platform for nurtured rural entrepreneurship. The proposed use will be a multi-purpose facility designed to provide a working space, prototyping labs, mentoring and training sessions, and also opportunities for collaborations with the universities. NGO, government agencies, and also private sector actors. In addition, it will serve a conduit for translating traditional knowledge and grassroots innovations into viable commercial or sociable ventures through SDI linkage. Moreover, central to the innovation hub designs is the inclusion of a robust funding model. Rural entrepreneurship often struggles with inadequate access to capital, with many aspiring innovators relying on personal savings or informal lending networks. The project explores a hybrid funding strategy, combining a public grants, private investment, and also community contributions. Partnership with local cooperative, microfinance institutions, and also corporate social responsibility or CSR initiative will be essential to ensure the financial viability of the hub and also its services. By leveraging blended finance mechanisms, the Innovation Hub will not only provide a direct support to entrepreneurs, but also attract long-term investment in rural innovation infrastructure, science, technology, and also innovation SDI linkages are also crucial to the success of the Innovation Hub. Many rural innovations remain isolated and undocumented, despite their potential relevance to the global challenge in agriculture, sustainability, and also public health. Through collaborations with academic institutions, research centers, and technology providers, the EU will facilitate knowledge transfer, skill development, and access to cutting-edge tools. Moreover, it will promote the documentations, protections, and potential patenting of indigenous innovations, ensuring that rural communities benefit for their intellectual property. This project does not propose to impose the urban startup culture on rural communities. Instead, it seeks to create a localized innovation ecosystem that values participatory designs, inclusivity, and long-term impact. A community engagement is therefore a cornerstone of the youth development. Local leaders, youth groups, women associations, and farmers corporations will be involved in the planning, governance, and also operations of the youth, ensuring its relevance of and sustainability. The emphasis will be on empowering communities to identify their own problems and develop contextually appropriate solutions with support of a structured innovation environment. The urgency of such as initiative is underscored by accelerating pace of rural immigrations, climate change, and widening socio-economic disparities. If rural areas are to remain viable and truly contributor to national development, there must be international effort to harness and scale the innovative capacities. Innovation tubes tailored to rural context represent a strategic intervention to democratize innovation, foster inclusive development, and bridge the urban-rural divide in knowledge economics. In conclusions, this project report outlines a strategic blueprint of stabilizing in a rural innovation tube that combines infrastructure development, SDI integrations, and sustainability financing. By focusing on local empowerment, inclusive growth, and also scalable impact, the proposed hub aims to transform rural entrepreneurs from passive participants in the economy into active agents of innovation.
Okay, now let's get into the background part. So there are three things that I want to explain. The first one is why the issue is important, secondly, why the issue still hasn't been solved, and lastly, why we need a solution or proposal now. So before we get into the topic, let's discuss why the issue is what is the issue? The issue is rural communities lack access to science, technology, and innovation (STI). So why the issue is important? The first point is rural communities are being left behind, especially in the digital and economic transformation. So as the world moves forward with technology and innovation, rural areas in Malaysia still lack access to basic tools, internet, and knowledge. So this will deepens the urban-rural divide and prevents rural people from improving their livelihoods or participating in a modern economy. For example, during COVID-19, there are students who need to get the internet access to join their online class, but some some places in rural areas that not achieve a stable internet access. The students need to climb the tree or even need to go to a very long distant place from their home just to get a stable internet access. So this shows that the digital transformation in rural areas still lack compared to urban areas. And that unstable rural income and limited opportunities will threaten long-term community survival. So most rural residents depend on agriculture and traditional sectors, which is very vulnerable to market and climate changes. So for example, if the palm oil prices is decreased during that season, the smallholder farmers need to cut back their fertilizer and maintenance because they couldn't afford it. And as a result, their future yields will be decreased and they will get a declining income. So without any solutions like innovation centers, this community will continue to face this poverty, increasing youth migration, and also economic decline. And the next part is why this issue still hasn't been solved. The most important thing is the lack of targeted infrastructure and support in rural areas. As we know, the government and also private development efforts usually focus on cities, but rural areas just receive a very limited investment in terms of technology, training, and innovation. And as a result, rural communities remain disconnected from the resources that could help them grow, like in urban areas. Next part is why we need the solution or proposal now. So the first point is the digital and innovation gap between rural and urban areas is growing rapidly. And as Malaysia moves toward becoming a digital economy, rural communities risk, are at risk being left even further behind. And if there is no action from the government, the rural areas will become harder to close the gap with urban areas in the future. And second point is technology is becoming more affordable and accessible than ever. With the growth of low-cost digital tools, online platforms, and remote training, it is now more possible to bring innovation to rural areas compared to the past. And now it is the perfect moment to introduce a rural innovation hub because the technology is very easy to accessible and more affordable compared to the past, and there's no reason like cost problem anymore. And last point is rural knowledge and traditional practice are at risk of being lost. As older generations continue to retire and also youth migrate to cities, the valuable local knowledge and traditional skill are at risk of disappearing. Without an innovation center, this practice and knowledge will continue to lose. So we need this innovation center to help preserve this wisdom by transforming it into modern solutions or products through training, documentation, and also digital tools. But if you don't take the actions right now, it will become too late before we know that the practice and the knowledge already lost. That's all for my part. I will continue. I will pass to my friends to continue the next part.
Hi, my name is Muadz, and my part is methodology. Alright, so our methodology, firstly, I will explain to you what my part is. Methodology explains how we conducted our research, what sources and tools we use, and how we develop a model that is both practical and strategic. Alright, we start with research design. We use a qualitative, descriptive, and comparative approach. This means we focus on deeply understanding the social, economic, and technological challenges in rural areas. We also compare innovation hubs from around the world to learn what works, which guided us to create a design that suits the rural Malaysia context. For the data collection methods, since we didn't conduct fieldwork, we rely on secondary data sources, which is literature, reports, and experts' opinion. This includes academic article, policy document, expert, um, reports from reliable institution. This helps us gather a wide range of insight in a short period. And next is literature review. Our literature review focus on four key sources. First, academic journals on entrepreneurship and innovation. Second, government policies, especially from the Ministry of Entrepreneur Development. Third, global reports from organization like the World Bank and OECD. And also, we also look at local initiatives like Malaysia's Rural Transformation Centre or Malaysia's RTC. RTC means Rural Transformation Centre. That a working example of rural innovation. And then we go on the next methodology is case study. Case studies. We studied successful hubs from India, Kenya, and Thailand. As you can see, India's RTBI, I don't remember what that means. And then Kenya's iHub, Thailand's SME centers. Uh, this case study helped us analyze how hubs operate from their structure and funding to their service and impact. This gave us a clear idea of what could work in Malaysian rural setting. And then we move on to simulated expert consultation. Because we could not interview expert directly, we use published interview, conference talk, and white papers. This allows us to still include expert opinions and current best practices in our design process. And then framework development. Once we gathered our data, we built a framework using three main components. Firstly is stakeholder mapping. Second, infrastructure and resource planning. And then lastly is strategic framework for analysis. Um, this guide uh, hubs design and function. We move on to stakeholder mapping. For stakeholder mapping, we identify five key groups: entrepreneurs, government, um, and government agencies like MEDAC, universities, NGO, and the private sector. And academic institution is university is one of academic institution or schools. Each has a specific role, such as policy support, training, funding, and mentoring. We created a stakeholder matrix to visualize these roles and relationships. And then infrastructure and resources. We also plan what the hub needs physically and digitally. So physical co-working space, training rooms, labs, digital internet platform, innovation system, human manager, mentor, admin staff funding. Yeah, this includes wait, for funding, we suggest using public-private partnerships, grants, and service fee to ensure sustainability. Alright, so for the second last of my point, and my last slide, and second last point, we use four main models to analyze our design, which is SWOT analysis, or some people call it SWOT analysis to identify strength and risk. Secondly is triple helix model to build collaboration between universities, industry and government. And thirdly is Porter Diamond to measure regional competitiveness. And the lastly is the logic model. The logic model is to track how the hub will deliver long-term effect. I mean long-term impact. Yes, long-term effect or long-term impact is the same. And then we proceed to the my last point, which is a validation strategy. Validation strategy is to validate our design. We compare it with the best practices from our cases. It act as benchmarking. Right? SWOT assessment. We also reassess our SWOT analysis and reflect on expert feedback. To measure success, we recommend tracking indicators like income growth, number of startups, and gender inclusion. Okay, so in conclusion for methodology, our methodology is structured, research-based, and community-focused. It ensures that our innovation hub isn't just a concept, but visible, inclusive, and strategic solution empowering women entrepreneurs in Malaysia. Alright, so I guess that's all for my methodology part. Alright, and then next to proceed to the next point.
Moving on from methodology, we now step into the analysis phase where theory meets application. We adopted a qualitative and contextual approach, as rural entrepreneurship isn't just about economics, it's deeply tied to social, technological, and cultural dimensions. Quantitative data alone can't capture these layers, which is why our analysis uses a combination of descriptive, comparative, and qualitative methods to see the full picture. In terms of governance and management, the project encourages collaboration, bringing together local authorities, NGOs, the private sector, and academic institutions. These aren't passive partners. Each plays a key role in ensuring that innovation hubs are rooted in the community. Additionally, a dedicated management team oversees day-to-day operations and engagement, ensuring continuity and responsiveness. Then there's data collection approach. Instead of relying solely on fieldwork, we lead into secondary data, which is pulling from academic literature, government policies like NEDAC 2020, international perspective from the World Bank and OECD, and local success stories like Malaysia's RTC. This allowed us to draw from multiple tiers of knowledge, balancing global insights with local reality. We also ground our analysis through case study benchmarking. For example, India's rural technology business incubators offered insights into scaling grassroots innovation. Kenya's iHub provided models for tech-driven community support, and Thailand's ecosystem showed how stakeholder synergy and funding models can empower rural spaces. Together, these case studies help us reflect on what works, why it works, and how it can be adapted locally. Now, let's look at how we build depth into this analysis through simulated expert consultation. Without relying on direct fieldwork, we still ensured real-time expert input through interviews, conference findings, and policy briefs. This approach let us remain dynamic while grounding our findings in real-world expertise. Then we moved into infrastructure planning, which goes far beyond just building physical hubs. It includes digital infrastructure like high-speed internet and online platforms, human capital, which means investing in mentors and trainers to support entrepreneurs, and financial tools such as grants, public-private partnerships, and tiered fees for sustainability. Um, Together, they shape a model that prioritizes flexibility, accessibility, and long-term capacity building tailored to the needs of rural communities. A crucial part of this stage is stakeholder mapping. We identified key players, which are entrepreneurs, government bodies like MEDAC, academic experts, NGOs, and private sector partners. Instead of operating in silos, we see them as collaborators. This mapping process helps foster shared ownerships and long term partnerships, building the social fabric necessary for sustainable innovation systems. Finally, to make sure our analysis has both depth and direction, we use a combination of analytical models and a robust validation strategy. The SWOT analysis uncovers both internal dynamics and external threats. Second, the triple helix model shows how academia, government, and industry can align for innovation. Third, Porter's diamond, which helps us assess Malaysia's rural competitive edge on a national and global scale. And the first one is the logic model, which allows us to map the pathway from input to impact, tracing how specific actions ripple into tangible change. But analysis alone isn't enough. It must be tested and validated. That's where our validation strategy comes in. First, we benchmark our framework against global models to make sure it holds up. And then second is we use iterative SWOT to adjust designs in response to new findings. Third is we bring in external experts to credibility and refinement. And finally, we track real outcomes using key performance indicators like income growth, startup numbers, and gender equity. These KPIs act as guideposts, ensuring we don't just design something ideal on paper, but something that truly delivers on the ground. And with that, we now move on from analysis into our final section, which is policy and the system design.
So, hi everyone. Today I will present an overview of the policies and system design for a rural innovation hub, which is designed to empower communities, especially in underdeveloped areas, by promoting entrepreneurship, technology, and inclusive economic growth. The main purpose of this hub is to empower rural entrepreneurs, giving them tools to succeed, and also to promote inclusive economic growth so no one is left behind. To and most importantly, to reduce the rural urban gap by supporting local innovation and job creation. This hub isn't just a building, it's a platform of transformation. The hub also offers co-working spaces and digital labs where entrepreneurs can work and collaborate, training rooms and retail corners to support both learning and product showcasing, and a community-focused design ensuring that it serves real local needs. This setup makes the hub accessible, engaging, and impactful. For the governance is collaborative. It involves local authorities, NGOs, private companies, and educational institutions. A dedicated management team handles daily operations and engagement. The services offered include entrepreneurship training, business advisory support, access to prototyping tools, and digital literacy and innovation programs. These combinations ensure both skills and support are available. To keep the hub running, initial funding may come from grants, CSR funds, or international donors. For ongoing operations, it uses membership fees, training fees, revenue sharing, and private partnerships. The hub also connects with science, technology, and innovation by partnering with research institutions, using digital tools to improve productivity, and linking entrepreneurs to mentors, investors, and networks. Make sure the hub is effective. We monitor first, income growth, second, startup creation, and third is gender inclusion, and carry out regular reviews to improve services and strategies. This ensure continuous improvement and real-world impact. And for the key challenges and solution, there are three challenges that we will face. First is digital literacy, but we will come up with the solution that is training and digital upskilling. For poor infrastructure, we will be having adaptable facility and phase rollout. And for market access barrier, there will be a mentorship, marketing support, and also retail platform. All of these will help the entrepreneurs to be able to grow significantly. And for the impact goals, we will revitalize the rural economies and also reduce the inequality among the ethnic, also the gender. This also will help in nurture a new generation of rural innovators.
Moving to the last slide, so we're talking about the conclusion from our topic for today. So, the proposed rural innovation hub represent a comprehensive and contextually grounded response to the multifaceted challenge facing rural entrepreneurs in Malaysia. Despite being rich in creativity, traditional knowledge, and untapped potential, rural communities continue to face barriers such as a limited infrastructure, low digital literacy, unstable income, and weak connections to national innovation ecosystem. This project underscores the importance of addressing the barrier not through one-size-fits-all urban-centric model, but by creating a localized, inclusive, and sustainability innovation ecosystem tailored to the rural context. At the heart of this initiative is to believe that innovation is not exclusive to cities or highly educated individuals. Rural communities, too, tough, often sidelined in national development narrative, poses unique insights and localized solutions to problems rooted in their lived lives. However, these innovations often remain informal and also disconnected from broader economic network due to lack of a technical support, exposure, and institutional linkages. The innovation hub aims to bridge this gap by acting as basically an organizational platform that oversees working spaces, digital infrastructure, prototyping facilities, and capacity building programs. These facilities will empower rural entrepreneurs to transform their ideas into scalable social and economic ventures. This project is also grounded in a strong methodological framework that combines a global best practices with local insights, drawing from a successful example like India's rural technology business incubators of and also Kenya Hub. The research leveraged benchmarking in literature review that distill key principles that contribute to effective innovation ecosystems. This include the first side funding sources, robust stakeholder engagement, and a service mix that reflects the actual need for of rural communities. A simulated expert consultations further enrich the framework, ensuring the remains aligned with the current policy trend and expert consensus in the domain of rural innovation and entrepreneurship. Moreover, stakeholder engagement is a critical component of the innovation hub designs. Rural development cannot be top-down, it must be participatory. This is why projects emphasize collaborations with entrepreneurs, local governments, universities, NGO, and private sector actors. A stakeholder metric is used to map roles and expectations to be fostering accounting, accountability, and also cooperations. This goal-based governance model ensures that the hub is not a mere static facility, but a dynamic ecosystem that evolves in response to the community's needs, sustainability, both operational and financial. As a key concern, the purpose of hub adopts a hybrid funding models, combining public grants, CSR investment, community contributions, and service-based revenue streams. This blended finance strategy reduces dependency on an angle on any single funding source and enhance long-term resilience. Furthermore, partnership with cooperative micro finance institutions and private companies ensure continuous support for rural entrepreneurs from ideation and commercialization. Another cornerstone of the hub is its integrations with science, technology, and innovation SDI framework. By linking rural innovators with academic institutions, research labs, and innovation networks, the hub facilitates technology transfer, intellectual property development, and digital inclusion. These connections are essential in democratizing access to innovation and ensuring rural communities are not left behind in digital economy. Analytical tools such as SWOT analyze, technical health model, and poor diamond model are employed to ensure that Hub is strategically sound as the regional competitive. A logic model is also used to connect resource to outcomes, making the planning process result-oriented and impact-driven. Evaluation metrics will track key indicators such as the number of staff support, income generation, and gender participation, ensuring the Hub remains aligned with the National Development Goals or SDGI. In sum, the proposed rural innovation hub is not just an infrastructure project, it is a strategic intervention to unlock rural Malaysian parents' potential. It offers a roadmap for inclusive economic growth by equipping rural communities with the tools, skills, and network needed to innovate and thrive. By rooting the hub in local context, fostering community ownership, and building strong SDI linkage, this project seeks to catalyze a rural transformation that is sustainable, equitable, and also national significant. I think that's all from our group by group seven in this course GQS0046. Thank you very much for our presenting for today. And also thank you so much for Doctor.